Sounder commuter trains have carried passengers between Seattle and Tacoma for 25 years. On September 18, 2000, Sounder began operations between King Street Station in downtown Seattle and Tacoma, with just 2 round trips each weekday. 25 years later, the service has grown considerably, with 13 round trips and a total of 9 different stations on the South Line down to Tacoma. The North Line, which began in 2003, brings travelers to and from destinations between Seattle and Everett with 4 trains in each direction Monday through Friday. To recognize the 25th anniversary of Sounder commuter train service, I'm going to take you on a tour of the South Line, now also referred to as the S Line. We'll begin in Seattle and follow the route all the way to Lakewood and return. The Sounder South Line begins at King Street Station in downtown Seattle. This station was built in 1906 and was once used by trains of the Northern Pacific and Great Northern Railroads. Today, it is the terminus for both of Sounder's commuter lines. It also serves Amtrak's Empire Builder and Coast Starlight long-distance trains and Amtrak Cascades intercity trains, which run between Eugene, Oregon and Vancouver, British Columbia. Nearby, connections can also be made to the Seattle Streetcar and Sound Transit's Link Light Rail. Most of Sounder's southbound trains on the S-Line run in the afternoon during the outbound commuter rush, with a few reverse commute trips offered earlier in the day. F59 PHI or MP40 PH locomotives typically lead trains southbound, while Bombardier bi-level cab control coaches lead the northbound runs. A typical trip from Seattle all the way to Lakewood takes about an hour and 15 minutes. About a half-mile south of King Street Station is the Holgate Rail Yard, where equipment for both Sounder and Amtrak is maintained. Amtrak is in the process of a major expansion project for this yard that's anticipated to be finished sometime in 2027. A southbound morning Sounder slips through the yard on its way to Tacoma. The Lander Street overpass provides a nice view of the south end of the yard. Like many big city commuter operations, heavy repair work on Sounder trains is done at the centralized yard in downtown Seattle. Additional yards at the outer termini of Lakewood and Everett are used to store trains overnight. Seattle's skyline rises above an afternoon Sounder train, as seen from Horton Street. Sounder continues south through the maze of freight rail yards that are owned by BNSF Railway and Union Pacific. With several rail yards and the port of Seattle in the background, a southbound Sounder train accelerates under Lucille Street as it approaches Boeing Field. The first station stop on the trip down to the South Sound is at Tukwila. This station is shared with Amtrak Cascades trains and is located near the South Center shopping mall. Tukwila Station opened in March of 2001, a few months after the debut of Sounder service. After leaving Tukwila, the route continues due south through the Kent Valley. Just a few miles south of the Tukwila station is the city of Kent. The old Northern Pacific Depot is still standing here, but is no longer used by the railroad. Sounder's current station at Kent was opened in February of 2001. Only S-Line trains stop at Kent. All Amtrak trains pass through the station at full speed. Leaving Kent, Sounder trains cross the Green River. Farms dot much of the landscape between Kent and Auburn. One of Sounder's F-59 PHI locomotives leads a southbound train as it slows for the next station in Auburn. This was one of only 2 intermediate station stops between Seattle and Tacoma to be completed in time for opening day operations of the Sounder in September of 2000. Originally, only 2 tracks passed through the station, but BNSF later added a 3rd track to handle increased train traffic. No Amtrak trains stop at Auburn as of 2025, but it has been proposed as a station stop for Amtrak Cascades and other potential future services. After departing Auburn, Sounder trains pass through the massive BNSF Auburn Yard. This is also the junction point for the line over Stampede Pass to eastern Washington. The S line begins to turn back to the west as it approaches Sumner. A morning reverse commute train approaches the station with an MP40 locomotive in the lead. Sounder service to Sumner began with the debut of the South Line in September of 2000. A temporary platform was used until the permanent station was completed in March of 2001. Like Auburn and Kent, Sumner is another Sounder-only stop. After leaving Sumner, the route crosses over the Puyallup River Bridge. Minutes away is the next station stop in Puyallup. An afternoon outbound Sounder sounds its horn for the multiple railroad crossings as it slows for the station stop in Puyallup. The Puyallup Sounder station opened in February of 2001. Amtrak does not stop at this station. Departing Puyallup, trains on the S line continue west through the Puyallup River Valley to reach the city of Tacoma. Majestic Mount Rainier can be seen towering above the horizon in the distance. Tacoma is located in the southern portion of the Puget Sound region and is the second largest city in western Washington. As of 2025, over 200,000 people live in Tacoma. Sounders Station here is officially known as the Tacoma Dome Station, as it is located just a few blocks north of the Tacoma Dome Arena. The station is housed in the old Milwaukee Road Freight Depot complex, today known as Freight House Square. A new station structure for passenger trains was completed and opened in 2017. Tacoma was the original end terminus for the Sounder. In addition to trains on the S line, all Amtrak Cascades trains stop here as well as the Coast Starlight. Prior to the startup of regular Sounder service, Sound Transit operated special Sounder trips to Mariners baseball games on select weekends during the spring and summer of 2000. Sounder continued to use temporary platforms near the old Amtrak station until a permanent Sounder platform was installed at Tacoma Dome Station in September of 2003. A southbound Sounder eases out of Tacoma Dome Station, allowing time for the gates at the D and C Street crossings to lower. Sounder service was extended south of downtown Tacoma on October 8, 2012. A half-mile of brand new rail line was constructed to join former Milwaukee Road tracks with the old Northern Pacific Railway. The new route forms a direct rail connection between Tacoma and several communities immediately to the south. Sounder trains climb a steep grade of nearly 3% as they head for the last two stations on the line. As the grade begins to level out, Sounder trains pass under Washington Route 16 and between several industries in an area known as the Nally Valley. The 1907-era building on the left once manufactured wooden furniture. South Tacoma Station is the second to last stop for the Sounder. Originally opened for buses in 2009, Sounder trains began stopping here with the service extension to Lakewood in 2012. While there has been a lot of redevelopment in recent years in this part of the city, industry is still very much present here. Tacoma Rail, a local freight rail carrier that is wholly owned by the city of Tacoma as a public utility, switches out the Excel animal feed grain elevator located just north of the station on a weekly basis, along with a nearby business park. Sounder maintains a modest yard on the north side of Lakewood used for storing train sets overnight. The yard can accommodate up to 7 full-length Sounder train sets, which are typically about 7 cars in length. A Sounder train comes around the big curve as it slowly approaches the last station stop at Lakewood. Like South Tacoma, Lakewood Station opened prior to the expansion of Sounder service and was originally a bus-only facility. The station opened to Sound Transit buses in September of 2008. As of 2025, Lakewood is the end of the line. Future plans call for an extension of the S-Line to DuPont by no later than 2045. Other proposals suggest extending Sounder service all the way south to downtown Olympia. For now, all Sounder trains reverse direction at Lakewood and either return to the Lakewood Yard or proceed all the way back north to Seattle. Returning north from Tacoma Dome Station, Sounder trains navigate a rather unique S-curve double-track bridge. This bridge was completed in 2017 and replaced an older wooden single-track bridge constructed by the Milwaukee Road. For a brief period in 2020 and 2021, some Sounder train sets operated with locomotives on both ends of the train. A morning inbound Sounder train on the S line approaches the crossing at 24th Street, north of Sumner. After crossing over the White River and passing through the BNSF Auburn yard, the train will make its next station stop at Auburn. A northbound sounder winds through the maintenance yard as it approaches the Holgate Street crossing. Less than a minute away is King Street Station and the end of the northbound trip. It is here that we leave the S-Line and bring our journey to a close. Thanks for coming along for our exploration of the Sounder S-Line. As always, a special thanks to all my supporters on Patreon. What do you think of Sounder's S-Line? Let me know by posting your thoughts below in the comments section. If you would like notifications whenever I post to YouTube, click on the subscribe button and select the Receive All Notifications option. I'll be back next Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time for a brand new railroading adventure right here on the YouTube channel. That's it for now. Until next time, I'm Mike Armstrong. I'll see you down the line. Thanks for watching.